Imagine seeing the world from the cockpit, but with a sixth sense that no other fighter jet provides. How do Gripen pilots achieve this almost supernatural level of awareness in the chaos of air combat? It's not just about what they see, but how their advanced systems show them everything differently. Forget everything you thought you knew about situational awareness in a fighter jet. Gripen pilots don't just see more, they see everything differently, giving them an unparalleled edge. This isn't just an upgrade, it's a paradigm shift in how air combat is perceived and won. Close your eyes and picture the blur of a dogfight. Then open them to a crystal clear, all-encompassing view of every threat, every ally, every possibility. That's the world of a Gripen pilot. We're diving deep into the technology that transforms their perception, making them truly see everything differently. Welcome back to Channel SkyJet Wings. Most fighter jets depend on what the pilot can physically see, but Gripen pilots operate differently. From the moment they step into the cockpit, it's not just their eyes guiding the mission, it's the entire aircraft acting like an extension of their brain. Gripen doesn't just display data, it interprets it. It filters noise, connects dots, and whispers threats before the pilot even turns their head. This is where the story begins, the rise of a sixth sense in modern air combat. Because historically, air combat situational awareness, AESA, has been the single hardest challenge for fighter pilots. Legacy aircraft overwhelmed them with dozens of dials, scattered radar alerts, isolated sensors, and chaotic radio chatter. Pilots often describe it as fighting the aircraft first and the enemy second. But Gripen breaks that rule. Its entire design flips the situational awareness problem upside down. Instead of forcing the pilot to chase information, the aircraft organizes the battlefield for them. It doesn't show everything, only what matters, only what keeps you alive. And that's what we'll uncover next, how the Gripen quietly redefines what a pilot can sense, predict, and control. If the pilot's sixth sense is the effect, then sensor fusion is the engine behind it. Inside the Gripen, three major systems are constantly scanning the world. AESA radar, sweeping the skies with electronic precision. IRST, silently tracking heat signatures like a nocturnal predator. EW suite, listening, decoding, and countering enemy emissions. Alone, each system is powerful. Together, they become something entirely different. Because Gripen doesn't dump raw data onto the pilot like legacy jets once did. Instead, it takes radar blips, infrared trails, and electronic whispers and merges them into a single, clean, coherent picture. That process, sensor fusion, is what turns chaos into clarity. To understand it simply, imagine standing in a crowded market blindfolded. You hear footsteps, smell food, feel vibrations, but none of it connects. Now imagine someone removing the blindfold and showing you everything at once, from one vantage point, perfectly labeled. That's what sensor fusion does for a Gripen pilot. For example, if a hostile aircraft switches on its radar, the EW suite captures the signal. The IRST might detect a matching heat signature. The AESA radar confirms its distance and speed. Gripen fuses all of this into one symbol. Not three alerts, not three distractions, just one actionable threat. No overload, no confusion, only situational dominance. This is why Gripen pilots say they see the truth of the battlefield, even before the enemy knows they've been spotted. When sensor fusion gives Gripen pilots clarity, the cockpit gives them control. The moment you sit inside the Gripen, you realize this isn't a typical fighter jet interface. There are no endless rows of buttons demanding attention, no clutter, no noise. Instead, the cockpit feels more like a smart command center built around the way a human brain naturally thinks. At the heart of this design is the intuitive human-machine interface. Large touchscreens that respond instantly, a helmet-mounted display that paints the world directly onto the pilot's visor, smart layouts that shift information subtly based on the mission phase. Everything is where your instincts expect it to be, almost as if the aircraft already knows what you're looking for. But the real magic happens behind the scenes. The Gripen constantly evaluates incoming data and decides what deserves attention. Intelligent alerts highlight threats without screaming at the pilot. Automated systems manage energy, countermeasures, and flight optimization without waiting for manual inputs. So instead of juggling buttons and fighting the dashboard, the pilot is free to think like a strategist, not a machine operator. This reduction in cognitive load changes everything. The pilot isn't drowning in data. They're reading the battle like a chessboard, planning moves ahead, anticipating the enemy's next step. And when a fighter jet gives the pilot the gift of mental freedom, that's when tactical superiority becomes unavoidable. This is where all the Gripen's intelligence stops being theory and becomes raw battlefield power. Because when the fight begins, whether it's a close-range dogfight or a long-range BVR duel, the Gripen doesn't behave like a typical jet. It behaves like a hunter that already knows the entire landscape. Every fuse sensor, every filtered alert, every automated decision flows into one outcome. The pilot sees the battle faster, clearer, and earlier than the enemy. In a beyond visual range engagement, this becomes lethal. While legacy jets scramble to identify radar signatures, the Gripen instantly determines who is friend, who is foe, who is a decoy, and who is about to become a problem. Priority targets are highlighted in order of threat level, not by guesswork, but by real-time analysis. The pilot doesn't waste precious seconds thinking. The aircraft already did the thinking for them. And in a dogfight, that same awareness becomes survival. The helmet display marks enemy positions even when they slip behind the aircraft's tail. The EW suite predicts missile threats before the pilot visually detects them. The aircraft's agility responds to every micro movement of the pilot's head and hands. This creates something rare in air combat: confidence. Because when a pilot knows every friendly, every hostile, every angle of attack, every invisible radar pulse, they're not reacting, they're orchestrating. Gripen pilots often say the jet makes them feel ahead of the fight. And in aerial warfare, being ahead is the same as winning. If the Gripen changed how pilots see today's battles, the next evolution will change how they see tomorrow. Because the philosophy behind Gripen, clarity over chaos, intelligence over overload, is shaping the next generation of air combat perception. And the future points towards something even more radical: AI-driven awareness. Imagine a cockpit where artificial intelligence silently anticipates threats, suggests maneuvers, and interprets patterns in milliseconds, not as a replacement for the pilot, but as a partner. Imagine a helmet display that feels less like a visor and more like an augmented reality battlefield map floating in your vision. Imagine a fighter that senses intent, not just inputs. This isn't science fiction. This is the direction Gripen has already nudged the world toward. By merging human instincts with machine intelligence, Gripen set the new benchmark for perception-based warfare. It proved that victory isn't only about speed or firepower, it's about understanding the battle faster than anyone else. And that idea will define the next decade of fighter design. So now the question goes to you. What do you think the next leap will be? Smarter AI co-pilots? Full 360-degree holographic HMI? Or a future where fighter jets predict the battle before it even begins? Tell me your thoughts below. The future of air combat perception might start with your idea.